Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and in this video, we're going to be going over the new champions in the game, and I will show you their grades on my tier list. I did this live on stream with input from viewers as well, so you'll be able to see how they graded out overall and in the different areas of the game. I know there's a lot of champions in Raid, so when there's new ones added to the roster, sometimes it can be handy to have a quick, concise video like this, just keeping you up to date on which ones may be kind of useful in certain areas of the game and how I am feeling about them in general as we add them to the tier list. So that's what this will be here. Let's get into it. Alrighty, and first of all, when you are going to be looking at the champions, there's not only champions part of the fusion that are new, but there's also like a new lizard void legendary and stuff like that we'll go over in this video as well. But just in general, when you're going to be looking at new champions from the fusion tab, when you click on this, it's going to pull them up as a level 1, and the base stats are all weird because it's a level 1 champion, 5-star. So you want to actually go into the index and get them pulled up so you can see the actual full level 60 fully ascended stats over on the bottom right and get a better encapsulation of them as a champion. So let's go ahead and start with Tatura, obviously the fusion champion. I've got the grades up top there along the bar, and we can scroll over to the right and see all the different areas of the game. But I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the fusion champion because I've already got a dedicated video on this one. But I did want to include this because I know some of you miss a video every now and then and don't see every single video. But all in all, the fusion champion Tatura rimehide graded out pretty well. Decent book value and really good in faction wars and Doom Tower and certain compositions when you get things built around them. And 8.7 out of 10 is pretty solid here for a fusion champion, and also going to be really good in the void keep because of the decreased accuracy on the A1. So all in all, very solid here for the holiday fusion champion here at an 8.7 out of 10. Then we've got Chagar, a new Void Legendary, which is always exciting because Void Legendaries are the best and most sought after champions in the game. So they really need to pack a punch because you hate to see people pull 220 Voids, which is an insane, crazy amount of investment, and then pull a bad champion. So Void Legendaries really got to be a good champion, and Chagar does not disappoint, at least in terms of our first impressions so far. I was able to test this guy a little bit on the test server, a little bit live on stream, and he is definitely fun. He can definitely crank out damage. Comes out as a 9.7 overall. Worth spending books on. Going to be good in many different areas of the game. Going to be amazing in the arena as a damage dealer and just very solid in general. You get this guy on your account, you will definitely be using him somewhere. A very fun kit that can do some CC on the A1. We've got a multi-hitter AoE, which is very rare, does not happen super often. A lot of fun there. We can place poisons and then also decrease defense for 3 turns, not just 2. We attack one enemy and then one more at random if they're under a poison, which he already does himself. He's going to ignore a bunch of different things like shield, block damage, unkillable, and then grant an extra turn if he gets a kill, which we love snowball abilities. It's what made Rotos insane back in the day before they had to change him. And then a passive where he's going to instantly attack enemies with his default skill that has CC on it anytime that they take damage from poison debuffs. Remember, they do have to be placed by this champion, so you can't have like bad Alcazar place poisons and then have this guy popping off with poisons or with the counterattack, sorry, but he does do it with the A2 here. So definitely a fun champion and coming off as super solid at a 9.7 out of 10 so far. We also got a new legendary in the Sacred Order in Glycy Soul Guide, and similarly to the Fusion, grading out as super well, and also kind of matching the winter aesthetic theme. Amazing aesthetics here. Love how this champion looks. So we've got pretty solid grades, 8.1 out of 10. Definitely nothing to sneeze at, and really good in the arena, especially in some of those more tanky compositions, because you're getting an A1 that is going to have a chance of placing a freeze and also do a debuff spread effect, taking one thing and spreading it out, scaling with defense, and a 1509 base defense. Going to be a very sturdy champion, as well as getting an AoE on a 3-turn cooldown base without books, and we don't even get any buff chance or anything. It's just you get 20% damage, no cooldowns or anything, so very efficient in terms of book value as well. But we're going to be placing weaken and then also stealing, not just removing a random buff if they're under a freeze, which we're going to get a chance to place here from the A3. That's going to place a block debuffs on all allies, which is super impactful. Also, we're going to be placing freeze on enemies for 1 turn and fill a turn meter for every freeze. So this is only a 4-turn cooldown, but it's kind of pseudo a 3.5 cooldown because we get a little bit of turn meter boosting there by a self effect. And then this champion cannot be put on cooldown is something super noteworthy. That is why the super meta score of 11 in the arena on a 1 to 10 scale, because there's going to be situations where you can really prevent and go. Those warlord compositions are super popular, especially when you get up to like silver 4, gold 1, gold 2 in tag team arena. You're going to be going up against a lot of warlords. So having a champion that cannot be put on cooldown, basically getting an immunity set versus those warlord teams, then you can CC them, boost your turn meter, then you can weaken them, then you can do some debuff spreading and keep some freezes on them and really kind of snowball things out of control by getting that base effect from the passive here. So also the fact that freeze debuff cannot be resisted or blocked is something that she is going to do when denying the cooldown increase effect. So a lot of fun things we're going to be able to do here with Glycy Soul Guide and grading out pretty solid. Now let's dive into the epics that are part of the fusion going on. We'll go over the 4 epics that are going to fuse into the Tatura rimehide holiday fusion. So for Umatogi, a new epic to the Shadowkin roster. I don't anticipate a lot of use coming out of this champion. We see mostly middling grades and could be maybe decent in the arena. We've got some mechanics that would be all right in terms of snowballing out of control, and I think it's mostly because of the passive here, where you've got some mitigation kind of similar to like the skull crown and stuff like that, where we're going to completely block a hit and allow you to make it towards that second turn, going in a more defensive style where you maybe don't go first before your opponent. But other than that, really not a whole lot to speak of, grading out at 6.0 out of 10. Then we've got Masamoto, grading out a little bit better at a 7.0 instead of a 6.0, and he's pretty generally useful. He's got an A1 that is a multi-hitter with a chance of stealing a random buff, which is obviously going to be super cool in some of these keeps, like the Spirit Keep and stuff like that. But in the Magic Keep, it would be very handy, but he would hit weak. So he's also got an A2 that's pretty general. You got an AoE that you can book to a 3-turn cooldown of just AoE decrease accuracy, which is super handy, especially for progressing, while also getting the double side of that. You're going to be lowering their damage output, and you're going to be increasing the sustainability of your team with the increased defense on all allies and also turn meter boosting. So I mean, a pretty solid, definitely an above average epic, grades out in the green at a 7.0. The third epic that is part of the holiday fusion is going to be Visionary, and grades out decent at a 6.2. Not great, but does have a really good aura of ally speed and dungeons by 24%. I think this champion is going to be a little bit more of a progression type champion, because you have the ability here that's going to increase crit rate, which is a very good ability in the beginning stages of the game when it's hard for you to get those crit rate gloves and crit damage gloves and all the crit rate substats to get your damage dealers to 100% crit rate. That can be kind of handy to build around in the early and mid game. So all in all, a pretty decent epic, but nothing super incredible. And the last epic, the 4th and final piece of the holiday fusion, is going to be Broodlord. I almost need to build and max this guy out just for the old time sakes of being a StarCraft player, as from myself, who came from the StarCraft community. Obviously Broodlord, one of the big Zerg units that drop broodlings all over the battle map and terrorize your opponent. So Broodlord, definitely a cool champion in my opinion, but does grade out as a 6.4, but should be super useful in faction wars and grading out pretty well for some of those lizard teams, and would also do pretty good in the Minotaur. We've got an A1 with some provoke and some utility there off of decreased speed. We've got ally protection, which is obviously going to be good in faction wars, and then we're going to block debuffs on an ally for 1 turn, and also place a shield, which is always super handy, especially in faction wars for the lizards when you're going to be dealing with getting one shot by that red boss. The shield is obviously a welcomed addition on a 3-turn cooldown, should help you 3-star that content as well. And then we get an AoE stun, which is pretty good, especially as a sturdy champion. You just have to be a little bit careful with Broodlord in faction wars because he scales with defense, and the base HP is 17k, which is a little bit low. That red faction wars boss is going to ignore defense. That's why we can't go to like an 11 on the faction war score or anything, because it's going to be tough to really sustain and get that HP high enough to sustain that boss. But we do have some cool utility and a passive here with no cooldown as well. So definitely going to be a handy addition, especially for the progression type accounts stepping into the lizard faction wars. And obviously, this is kind of an old school type fusion where there are rares that fuse into epics, and then the 4 epics that fuse into the featured event champion. So there are 4. The rares are the same for all of the epics. So there's not 16 different rares. There's only 4 different rares, and then it's the same 4 for each one. So for the 4 rares, we'll start out here with Itinerant. I mean, you know, all right, nothing super incredible. A 4.9 as a rare champion, and not really a whole lot to take note of. Some of these rares we can go through pretty quickly and just kind of keep you up to date. The second rare required for the fusion is Castigator, and again, nothing super noteworthy, grading out mostly in the red with only a couple different areas grading out as decent. So not a whole lot to note of there. Castigator at a 3.8 out of 10. Similar story with the third rare required here, Misericord. You know, really nothing to take note of. Could be decent in your first like Minotaur team, and a really super early introduction to the Bannerlords faction, but really a 4.4 out of 10. Nothing super incredible. And then last but not least, well, actually last and least, we've got Ordinator here as the last rare required, and mostly red, actually so red that it's probably changing the tint of my face and making me appear more red. Look at this. Yeah, see, okay, that's like the normal, like if we don't have a lot of red on the screen, and then boom, it's actually giving me a red tint here because there's so much red in the grades of doing this champion here. But yeah, a 2.0 out of 10, really not any reason to build Ordinator, not a whole lot going on. We do get freeze on the A1, but you know, it's a bomb champion. We need more utility out of bombs to justify building a rare bomber of Ordinator's caliber. So there we go, a quick little wrap up of the initial grades of adding these champions to my tier list, and hopefully this keeps you in the loop of my opinions on the new champions coming to the game, because I know there's so many champions in the game. That's hopefully it can be nice to have a nice little wrap up of seeing someone's thoughts on these champions and helping you stay in the loop of who might be good, who might be less used and stuff like that. But let me know if you disagree down below, because as always with new champions, I am open to changing my grades on champions and keeping the tier list fluid and evolving with the opinions of the community. As we learn more about champions, I am always opening to input and changing those numbers as we kind of move forward and learn more about the game. So that will do it for me on this one. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks for watching. Peace.